Welcome, everybody. Oh, my goodness. What a great night. I am Todd Kennedy, and I am a myeloma patient. And I am here with my wife, Diane, and we are very proud and passionate supporters of the HealthTree Foundation. It is possible to cure myeloma and many other blood cancers. It's just a matter of when. It's not if, it's when. And I am so pleased to tell you that HealthTree has a proven model that we know can and will, with our collective support, accelerate the arrival of our cures. You see, patients and their loved ones, we have a sense of urgency. We have a need for speed. We need that when to arrive sooner rather than later. And we also have an urgent need for personalized education, meaningful connection, and lifetime support, because we plan on living long and full lives with our families and friends. Tonight and always, we are grateful for our HealthTree 2.0 sponsors, and with these patient and research-focused organizations, together we have already accomplished so much, and we truly appreciate their partnership and support going forward.
So I've been connected to HealthTree Foundation since the beginning when it was Myeloma Crowd. And I've had the privilege of observing the evolution of this foundation into a completely holistic patient organization known as HealthTree Foundation. One of the things that I love about the foundation is that Jenny Ahlstrom and her team are so thoughtful about creating resources that meet the patient where they are and helping to fill gaps that patients have.
HealthTree Foundation has programs that focus on communities of need, and those programs, whether it's their coaches in these communities or programs targeting African Americans, have remarkable impact.
HealthTree's suite of software tools are not only impressive, but also unique. They're built for the patient community, and it's driven based on those community needs. Having the tech team on staff makes HealthTree really unique in that they're able to build those tools for patients from the ground up.
Over the course of their first decade, the HealthTree team has crafted innovative programs and software tools that provide patients with personalized support, valuable educational resources, and the ability to connect with their peers. Their creation of the extraordinary Cure Hub patient data portal is further evidence of their ability to disrupt care. As we look to the future, we're eager to learn more about what comes next. Jenny and her colleagues will no doubt do more to better the lives of people living with blood cancers. Takeda looks forward to continued partnership with the HealthTree Foundation and the entire cancer community in this remarkable journey.
My brother David, he was diagnosed with a cancer called AML, acute myeloid leukemia. And here's a picture of David and Tanya and their five rowdy boys and their cute little girl. This is about 6 months into his journey. The next photo I'm going to show you, which was a few weeks before this. David, his heartbeat is over 180 a minute, and he's given about 48 hours to live. But David had run out of standard of care options at this point. It was a pretty dark moment. And we had been researching different drugs that were off-label and not approved for his situation. One of them was a drug called Mylotarg. And Mylotarg targeted the CD33 protein, drug of its kind. It was the first antibody drug conjugate. And it wasn't approved yet. The head of Huntsman Cancer at the time said, well, if you can get approval from the inventor, we'll let you give it to him. By 6 p.m. that evening, I found the guy in a restaurant in Seattle. We remember getting him on the phone with the head of Huntsman, and he said, yeah, sure, go ahead and try it. And the next photo is 2 days later. It worked. He had a complete response. David lasted about another 6 months, and that was an important 6 months for our family. And one of the things we learned is that you can be an advocate, and the more involved in your care, the better outcome you're going to have, and patients can have an impact. We also learned that there are these stories that are happening all over the place where people are getting treated with off-label use for different situations, and those stories are being lost for 14 years. This drug, 14 years later, was approved for his situation, and that creates a lot of opportunity for patients and others to help out. So this is what sparked the idea for HealthTree. we thought somebody else should do this, and so we went and met with many different groups. We met with the IBM Watson team, and they hadn't chosen health yet. And so they said, listen, if you can get access to the data, we're there for you. And we will donate all the technology. And I said, well, how hard could that be, get access to the patient data? Well, IBM went on for the next decade. They invested $10 billion and ended up failing in their initiative because they couldn't get access to the patient data. We went to Seattle, met with Microsoft for the Health Vault team, and thought we would purchase Health Vault, try to do an M&A spin out, and that was the leading of capturing patient records at the time. They failed. Google Health failed. I was on the advisory board of Google for years for their entrepreneurship and launchpad initiatives. And every major tech company that had tried this had failed to aggregate patient records. It's not a capital problem. It wasn't a technology problem. So I had given up. We had basically run that process, and I had completely forgotten about this HealthTree idea. 6 years later, Jenny's diagnosed with another terminal cancer that we hadn't heard of, and we took what we learned from David's experience and applied that learning, and we decided that we would hit it as hard as we possibly could up front. So Jenny did back-to-back bone marrow transplants. So it's like you wash the bowl, you rinse it out, you wash the bowl again, and hopefully you get the cancer. And this bought Jenny many years of a remission. As soon as Jenny was healthy, we started the HealthTree Foundation. This is Jenny's very first podcast. We started this process to figure out how can patients help accelerate better outcomes. And so could we educate patients on clinical trials? And so Jenny has now done over 160 radio shows and these podcasts with well over 2 million listens. And then she took that content and generated a news site and identified all these other niches. I'm a startup guy. And over the past 23 years, Jenny and I have invested in over 150 tech companies. And so I have a hammer and everything's a nail. So this is a problem that a startup can solve. And so we started looking at the niches in cancer and what wasn't being done. We don't want to recreate the wheel. What weren't people doing? And so we created a specialist directory because there turned out there wasn't one at the time. And then some of Jenny's doctors, they decided to come and help us out and became an advisory board. It's not just any advisory board, it's world class. We have Dr. Rafael Fonseca of the Mayo Clinic here today. And we launched in October 24th, 2018. And we had 860 patients sign up by the time we launched. And then we came up with this crazy idea to create a funny video on cancer. We got 3.5 million views about a terminal cancer nobody's heard of, and we had 2,500 patients sign up. Now, there's a saying in the startup world, you're on your own, the Today Show's not calling you, just grind it out. Well, the Today Show did call, and we got on the Today Show, and another 5,000 patients. Overnight, we had another 2,500 patients sign up. And I'm a big believer in disruption theory, and we had crossed into, from the early adopters to the early majority, into the cancer patients of all living patients. And we just started seeing this critical mass of patients signing up for HealthTree Cure Hub and sharing their data and sharing their stories. Today we have 13,000 patients that are participating in Cure Hub. And this is extraordinary. We have about 8% of all living patients now participating in HealthTree Cure Hub and sharing their stories and their data with other patients. And I'm pretty excited to show you what we've been able to do with this trust that the patients have given us.
When I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, it was a disease I had never heard of. I quickly learned that having a specialist lead my team would add years to my life. HealthTree has a directory that can help anyone find a myeloma specialist in their location.
Myeloma care is changing quickly, and I realized that I needed and wanted to stay ahead of my treatment plan. I stay up to date by subscribing to HealthTree Myeloma News. I go to amazing webinars, and I listen to the HealthTree podcast.
When I was first diagnosed, I didn't know where to go to get answers. So I went on to HealthTree University and binge-watched the videos on myeloma. And I learned more in those 3 days than I could have with my healthcare team in 6 months.
Innovation is happening so quickly in myeloma. At the San Diego Roundtable, it was so valuable to hear directly from the experts. And it was a turning point for me and my wife where we decided to get very active with HealthTree and help move us towards a cure.
Since I connected with a HealthTree myeloma coach, I feel less overwhelmed. Jackie's compassion and her sincerity has really helped me feel like there is hope.
Whenever I have questions or need reliable information, I call HealthTree's Patient Navigator team. They are professional, educated, articulate, and caring. They put my mind at ease and help me understand my myeloma in a patient-friendly manner.
I like Facebook, but I love HealthTree Connect. The myeloma-only social media helps me build meaningful connections and have real conversations within the myeloma community. That means a lot to me.
I joined a chapter because I want to help find a cure for myeloma. Chapters work together to reach out to all patients and to help raise money for myeloma research. Together is how we're going to find a cure for myeloma.
La barrera con el idioma dificulta mi comunicación con mi equipo de salud, pero HealthTree ha creado recursos en español para ayudarme a comprender mi enfermedad.
I participated in clinical trials because it gave me the earliest access to the best possible care. HealthTree has a clinical trial finder that can streamline the process. They also have patient navigators who can help you get into a trial.
I started the Black Myeloma Health Group because Black patients have poor outcomes and are underrepresented in clinical trials. I'm working to change this by educating the community and inviting them to participate in research so that they can have better health outcomes.
Being a HealthTree coach has taken me out of the darkness into a place of bright light. My family has noticed the difference in me. Working with the HealthTree organization has been nothing short of amazing.
I wanted to help advance a myeloma cure, so I joined HealthTree Cure Hub, where I track my labs and answer surveys for myeloma investigators. By sharing my story, I'm able to help myself and my myeloma peers.
I was running out of treatment options when I found on Cure Hub a recommended treatment, and it worked. HealthTree helped save my life.
Cell transplantation has really revolutionized the field for all blood cancers, including multiple myeloma. Can you share a little bit more about Don Thomas and then what traits were critical for his success? And share a little bit about the story.
Thanks, Jennifer. I'm happy to do that. So Don Thomas was born in rural Texas. His dad was a general practitioner. Don walked around with his dad doing house-to-house visits and wanted to become a doctor. Don finally did make it to medical school because during World War II, there was an acute shortage of doctors. The government started paying for people to go to medical school if they would give back after medical school in the Army. So Don got to go to Harvard. And when he was in Harvard, he heard of a very interesting experiment. Now, this experiment was triggered by the atomic bomb blast in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's about 200,000 people were killed, and of those 200,000, most were killed by the blast, but another, about 20%, were killed by radiation. And the reason they died was that the radiation destroyed their bone marrow, because that's the most sensitive tissue to radiation. After the war, there was an experiment done where they showed that if you radiated a mouse and transplanted marrow from a non-irradiated mouse to the radiated mouse, that mouse would recover. And so Don read about that and said, well, if you can radiate a normal marrow, destroy it, and replace it with another normal marrow, why couldn't you radiate an abnormal bone marrow, destroy it, and replace it with a normal one? He proposed doing experiments to try and get that done. His boss, Sidney Farber, said, no way, that is insane. It can't work, it's absurd. Everyone knows that you can't transfer tissue from one individual to another, but Don thought it was possible. He left Harvard because he didn't have any space at Harvard to get it done. He moved to a little place in Cooperstown, New York, called the Imogene Bassett Hospital, and started working it out. But over a period of 15 years, from the mid-1950s until 1970, he finally worked out all the details in animal models and started finally having success. Today, there are over 100,000 bone marrow transplants performed worldwide every year because of Don's pioneering work. And in 1990, he won the Nobel Prize for that.
What inspired you to write this book, Living Medicine?
I was blessed to have read one of Don's very first papers in 1970 when I was just in medical school and was just totally entranced by it. That's what I went into, and I was lucky enough to do work and began to work with Don and spent my entire career with Don doing that. And it's a great story, and I felt that if someone didn't tell the story, it would get lost. And I think there are a lot of lessons in that story that are important for other people trying to solve other difficult problems. That's why I wrote the book. It was to celebrate Don, to memorialize his efforts, and to get the story out there because I think it's a really, really important story. The more that people understand the whole process, I think the easier it is to get that work done.
Dr. Fonseca, what other progress have you seen towards a myeloma cure?
So, thank you. It's just such an inspiring time to be part of the community and everything that's happening in myeloma. Cancers are not curable until they are. And I think we have to live with that mantra. We will make cancers curable. In my first encounter with newly diagnosed patients, I say you might have read in the book chapters and the first sentence of every article that myeloma is an incurable condition. And I firmly believe that's not true anymore. I think there's patients that are now being cured from their condition with a number of treatments. I think it's something that we can start looking at the horizon, and it's a statement we'll be able to make with confidence as we look back at 2023. I know it's not a majority of patients, but I think there's a growing number of patients in our clinic that are out 10, 15, and 20 years out. I think we're seeing the progress that is being made and how that's happening. A big part of this is the availability of better tools. We have better ways to treat the disease. It's not that hematologists are smarter. We just have more drugs, more diagnostic tools, and have a better understanding of how to use them. 10 years ago, we thought, controlling the disease is sufficient. I think we have changed that mindset that we have to go for eradication of all cancer cells in a way that protects the person, in a way that is a shared decision-making process. But there's no point in leaving cells behind that are cancerous. So, Dr. Costa would say, who can argue with less cancer is better? That's how we feel about that. And that's why, part of what you hear in the discussion includes things such as the MRD testing. From the start, we want to put all of our steps in such a way that we can make as many patients as possible MRD negative. And we're seeing that happen. And then we have the advent of some of these new tools, the immunotherapy tools, that for patients who have received many prior lines of therapy, now they have a wonderful response. Responses that we would have never anticipated. Patients that receive CAR T cells or bispecifics that are out several years from when they started therapy. And again, our goal would be that one day, it's like 5 days of treatment, no toxicity, it's for free, it's cheap, no one pays, there's no side effects, and myeloma is cured that way. But until we get there, I think we're in the right direction. I think 15 years from now, people are going to go, well, just cure me from myeloma. That's what you guys do, right? So it's going to be the opposite. Things will go wrong sometimes, and it will, how come you didn't cure me from my myeloma? So we're very fortunate. I hope my prediction is right.
And I know that it's frustrating that progress has been not as fast as you want. But the very first CAR T cells are only about 10 years old. And it's just extraordinary how fast we're learning, and it's accelerating. It really is, and it's going to just keep accelerating, which is why we need additional information, the kind of information that you're creating.
Well, let's end with that question, because one of our key goals is to make your research better and faster. What do you see as the need for or utility of organizations like HealthTree?
First of all, for research, to support research, to understand what the real concerns are for patients long term. And so if we want to improve therapies, cure is obviously the most important thing, but cure is not enough. You have to have cure with really great quality of life afterwards. And why not shoot for that, right? I mean, yes, we will be curing more patients every year, and that's just going to keep accelerating. But we want the cures to be of high quality, and so we have to have feedback from patients. They have to be participants in that. They have to say, is it worth it to go through this toxicity for another month or two of extended life? Those are individual decisions that patients have to make. We can't make them. Patients have to make them. And only by having patients participate in the process can we get those kinds of answers. And get information in a nuanced way, I think, is just incredibly important. So I really congratulate what you're doing.
Thank you. I agree, of course, with everything that has been said, and just like very specifically to HealthTree, the ability that you have to actually connect with patients. The term I was talking to Paul one day is the real world that is living and breathing, right? So you can push out a survey, and if for some reason one of the participants in HealthTree said, listen, I have vision changes that I only see blue colors in a different way, we would never know that through clinical trials, but you can quickly address that through HealthTree. And patient-reported outcomes, quality of life studies, and then as we move forward, more and more sophisticated stories. So I think it's just wonderful to have the opportunities to have such a rich database to be able to answer very important and oftentimes very practical questions for patients. So like Fred said, congratulations.
We are so thrilled that you joined us. Thank you so much. We started by filling gaps. I thought, why isn't there a specialist directory online? It doesn't make any sense. I can't find an expert. And people are telling me that I'm going to live 2 to 5 years longer if I can find one. So it was so obvious that needed to happen. I called 8 facilities to join their clinical trials, and I got a call back from 2. And I thought, this is hard as a patient. I'm trying to join clinical research, and it's still really difficult. So as we started filling gaps, we kept developing more and more and more programs. And our slogan kind of became, we do a lot. So we took a step back and thought, who are we? What do we do really uniquely that no one else is doing out there? And we are calling this launch HealthTree 2.0. We've spent the last year really preparing for this launch. So HealthTree, now that we describe it in 3 pillars, we provide lifetime personalized support and education. Why do we do that? Educated patients live longer. They ask better questions of their doctor. They're educated. They can come into the clinic and ask relevant questions. Instead of, they self-advocate. They might go get a second opinion and really demand better care from their provider. Secondly, our second pillar is meaningful patient-to-patient connections. Connected patients do better. They have better quality of life. They encourage others to get educated. And then thirdly, we have a powerful data portal that transforms patients into active contributors. You can be a recipient of education, and yes, it's amazing. You should get educated. You should do everything you can to be educated about your disease and your cancer. But that's not going to cure the cancer. We all need to get involved, and it's only because we are all involved that we will get to a myeloma cure. How long do we want to wait as patients? Or do we want to get involved and really move the bar and help these researchers advance the science 100x what they could typically do? What we want to share is this model and how this model works not only in myeloma, but can be replicated for other cancers.
Facing cancer can be overwhelming. How do you stay informed about your disease? How do you get help from others in your situation? How can you become part of the cure? HealthTree Foundation is how. HealthTree is a global nonprofit organization uniting patients and researchers through cutting-edge technology to work together on curing disease. HealthTree is already accelerating a cure for multiple myeloma and is actively expanding its reach into curing over 40 other blood cancers. The HealthTree model is simply powerful, with cure tools in 3 primary areas or pillars that deliver on its mission. First, lifetime personalized support and education. Second, meaningful patient-to-patient connections. And third, a powerful patient data portal. Our first pillar is lifetime personalized support and education. It's a fact that educated patients live longer and have better quality of life. That's why HealthTree has an in-depth library of webinars, podcasts, news articles, and even an online university where experts share their knowledge. Plus, you can benefit from a supportive team of bilingual patient and medical navigators. Our second pillar, meaningful patient-to-patient connections, enables you to learn from others and receive vital support and information along your journey. Through HealthTree's coaching program, volunteer coaches provide emotional and educational one-on-one support. This program alone has changed hundreds of lives, bringing joy to both coaches and coachees. HealthTree has programs for underserved communities as well, providing equal opportunities for everyone to receive the very best medical care. HealthTree also offers regional communities where you can connect with caregivers and other patients, learn from local specialists, raise awareness in your neighborhood, volunteer to support your peers, and fundraise for research. Our final pillar, the powerful patient data portal, is called HealthTree Cure Hub. Within HealthTree Cure Hub, you can track your cancer by linking your medical records from various facilities, see your integrated medical labs, and discover potential treatments. Even review clinical trials you're eligible to join. You can even find and chat with someone with similar disease characteristics or uncover crowdsourced solutions for your side effects. Ultimately, you can be a key part of accelerating a cure by participating in active studies that lead to faster findings and deliver real-world evidence for blood cancer researchers. In fact, HealthTree provides researchers with the most comprehensive, accurate, and continually updated set of research data available anywhere today. HealthTree Cure Hub opens doors for new types of investigator research, saving time and money on the road to finding a cure. Today, over 13,000 myeloma patients participate in HealthTree Cure Hub, and 65,000 have taken myeloma surveys. These three pillars support the miraculous work of HealthTree around the globe and help keep patients and loved ones connected as they become active contributors in finding a cure. The HealthTree model is working every day on behalf of patients with multiple myeloma. We are now expanding this successful model to accelerate a cure for other blood cancers. So when you get your diagnosis and you're trying to make sense of your new situation, rest assured there's a way forward, a way filled with hope, encouragement, and results. HealthTree is the way to a better outcome and a better life.
When we asked ourselves, how is HealthTree going to accelerate a myeloma cure, it goes beyond the first two pillars. Education is great and connections are wonderful, but it's the data that's going to really make the difference. And you as patients are the key. We together are the key. It's only when we aggregate our information together and then we can see. There are patients with multiple myeloma that are living a long time. The doctors right now don't know who they are. They don't know why. So if we can gather that kind of information, subset it genetically, it all starts to make sense. I kind of want to step you through just a little bit about what's the traditional research process and how are we different. So an investigator will come up with an idea. They create their study design or survey. They have to go raise money for that survey or study. Even if they want to ask a really basic question, they submit it to get IRB approval. They do their data collection. If they want to go outside of their facility to do a data collection, now they have to sign data sharing agreements between facilities, which takes time and resources to do. They do their data analysis and then they publish on their research so others can benefit from what they've learned. That research process is slow and expensive. And there are some questions that the investigators don't want to ask because it's too laborious to ask them. But if we make it simple for them, they can ask many, many questions of us as patients. On this process alone, we can do a survey design and study. We can do that in 2 months. We don't charge the investigators to do it, so they don't need to go find funds. We can do the data collection, and our average to invite a patient to participate in a survey or a study is 4 to 6 weeks. This is unheard of. After COVID, we did a COVID study when we recruited 1,300 patients for a COVID study as soon as COVID hit in 6 weeks. That doesn't happen anywhere else because we have the relationship of trust with the patients. But we can provide that service, and then we're getting research published, and we're doing this for free. So when we think about how many questions can we answer for the research community. We can answer any question you want to ask in a survey. Patients are happy and willing to do it. We can do data mining, we can do chart reviews, we could do synthetic control arms. We can do all sorts of new types of research that couldn't be done before. You'd have to go through a traditional clinical trial process, which is just very laborious and very expensive. So what does this mean for the researchers? On average, the researchers have told us, you're saving me 1.5 years and $150,000 every time I want to do a project with you. We're giving them comprehensive and updated data. That hardly ever happens because usually you're looking at a single center's data set and you can't get enough data on the research question that you're looking at. They have access to, the data is anonymized. So I want to make sure that patients understand that when investigators or researchers are interacting with the data, it is anonymized data. It's not your personal information. They can ask questions they couldn't ask before, and their alternatives are very expensive. Other data sources like Flatiron data are kind of like slice in time kind of data. They don't have a relationship with the patient. They can't go back to them and say, hey, on question number 15, you stopped. Can you please go in and answer that last question for us? Because we really want to know the answer. It's not possible. So in short, HealthTree saves time, money, and lives. Now we can do this over and over and over again. I think I'd like to play a video now about how myeloma researchers are using our data.
The internet has become an amazing space full of a lot of good and a lot of bad information. And I really guide my patients towards sites like HealthTree to really provide them vetted and true information to help guide them to make the best decisions for themselves.
I was fortunate to be connected to the HealthTree Foundation through Cindy, also known as Myeloma Teacher, a few years ago. And I think this connection to HealthTree has been really incredible to move the science along and get patient involvement in our studies and participation in the research. The main things that would be required is just an email address, and then you can put in only the details of your diagnosis or care that you're comfortable with. These surveys will be analyzed in an anonymous fashion, so your data is not going to be linked to it when we receive it.
HealthTree had the financial resources, a willing virtual patient base, and the research tools available so we could survey patients, gather their responses via an IRB-approved protocol, and analyze the data in a way that enabled presentation at both national meetings and for future publication. Their team was instrumental in pulling this off and worked collaboratively with us to create the survey, distribute it to the patients, analyze the results, and craft the future publication. It's been a great experience for our team here at Emory and University of Illinois Chicago.
I'm very fortunate to work with HealthTree Foundation. And what Jenny has done in HealthTree Foundation is she created a very unique experience for our patients. We know that without the clinical data and without knowing how patients are responding to therapy, what are their symptoms, what they have for all of their clinical data, we cannot really advance the science. And we can do the best science, but without the patient information, that doesn't work. And here, Jenny has really created a unique opportunities for patients to empower this work to really make the difference by putting in their own data into the HealthTree Foundation. And with that, we can ask many questions and answer the science in a very rigorous way.
This is what I wanted to share with you. So far, when we first created HealthTree Cure Hub, we did everything by word of mouth with the investigators. We would open it up and share it with the investigators. We've done so far 76 surveys and studies. We've had 65,000 patients participate in some of these surveys and studies. We've involved 78 investigators. Our average time to recruit, again, is stunning at 4 to 6 weeks. It's taken 9 to 18 months on average to complete, but we've done projects in as short as 2 months. So the pace of the research that we're advancing is extraordinary. So technology plus patience makes this all possible. And I want to highlight this because this is not normal in a normal patient advocacy organization. I think you'll see a lot that do patient education and patient connections, but very few, if any, use technology. And I would say technology in general in healthcare is kind of laggard. So we have a dedicated product team. These are our developers. They've developed 1.7 million lines of code. We have patient navigators who have had over 15,000 touch points with patients. They answer phone calls, they respond to texts. We also have a medical team who are doctors, and they will validate the data on the back end. And then again, our research team and our research capabilities. Now, HealthTree 2.0 for us is two things. It's additional reach into communities across the United States, and it's the advancement, significant advancement of research. So our goals by the end of 2025 in just multiple myeloma is to have 25,000 patients in HealthTree Cure Hub and to raise $5 million towards myeloma research. More research means faster cures. And when we share this with the investigators, their biggest question is, what type of data do you have? So there's a big hematology meeting. It's called the ASH meeting. It's held in December every year. And at this meeting, for the first time, we'll be hosting a reception to allow all the doctors to come in and see the nuts and bolts of our data in the back end. So we'll be hosting that this year, and we're very proud of it. We'll do a call for proposals for myeloma investigators in the spring of 2024. We'll invite investigators to share their ideas. We have so many requests coming in now that we have to prioritize the ideas and vote on them, and then we will do as many as we possibly can with our research team. In December, we'll also create a researcher portal. So the researchers will be able to not only search for different cohorts of our data, but they'll be able to, let's say, for example, they want to look at smoldering myeloma patients. So de-identified smoldering myeloma patient information will be put into a little data bucket, and they'll be able to look in a stats portal with de-identified information and do some analysis on that type of data. Coming soon in 2024 are our HealthTree regional communities, because as we ask ourselves, how are we going to get 25,000 patients in HealthTree Cure Hub and involve patients in becoming part of a cure? This is how we will do it. We are breaking the country into 6 regional communities, and we will be providing a structure, a charter, a very organized way that patients will be able to volunteer. You've heard about our ambitious plans, but I wanted to reinforce my commitment to a myeloma cure, because maybe that's done selfishly, but I will never relent until we have a cure for multiple myeloma. So while we will be able to expand to other diseases using this toolkit that is technically amazing, my focus will never drop from multiple myeloma, because we need to cure patients. And because if we are all focused on the cure and willing to contribute to that cure, we can achieve a cure. I know that we can. I know that we're getting closer. And if myeloma were a relay, we would be somewhere further along. We are not at the beginning in multiple myeloma. We may be for some other cancers, but we are not for multiple myeloma. So with that commitment to you as myeloma patients, because you are my friends, you are my peers, we are in this together. And with that, each of us are individual patients. We need to be cared for on an individual basis. But together, there's so much more that we can do. And the more of us that do it, the faster that we will get to a myeloma cure. Thank you.
These are our goals for the next 2 years. Enroll at least 25,000 myeloma patients in Cure Hub and raise at least $5 million to unleash the research potential of that powerful patient portal, Cure Hub. And these are realistic goals, but we really don't want to stop there. Really, the more support we receive, the further and faster we can go for more blood cancer patients. And here are the steps you can take beginning tonight. First, if you're a blood cancer patient and you've not already signed up for CureHub, please get in touch with HealthTree this week. And you can join HealthTree CureHub by reaching out to support@healthtree.org. And I've trusted HealthTree with my data, and I hope patients will trust HealthTree with their data as well. And second, you can help us exceed that goal of $5 million by donating today via text. You can text to CURE right there. There's a QR code that we have, or you can go to healthtree.org. The more money we raise, the more rapidly critical research questions can be addressed and acted upon. And finally, spread the word, because you're going to get some follow-up from this meeting, and we would just ask that you spread that information and spread that news, spread your enthusiastic support to everyone in the blood cancer community. So when you think about the comments from Paul and Jenny and our experts that you saw on the stage and on the videos, I'm hopeful that you see the power and the potential of HealthTree 2.0. And I hope that you're also inspired to help us exceed those goals of 25,000 patients and $5 million in 2 years. Because once again, it's not a matter of if myeloma and other blood cancers can be cured. It's a matter of when, and working together, those cures will arrive faster. So on behalf of all blood cancer patients, thanks in advance for your trust in HealthTree and for your generous support.